Hey guys, Bartel's Bookshelf here with something a little unusual. Well, it's a book haul video, but it's a little bit of an unusual book haul video. So, as I've pointed out in some of my previous videos, I've been getting into Star Trek books. I've been really getting into Star Trek books. Between visits to Half Price and visits to some independent bookstores. Most recently, we went to this place called The Bookseller in Lincoln, where I bought a bunch more Star Trek books. So, I've collected about 85, maybe 90, almost 100 Star Trek books. Most of them are from the Pocket Books numbered series, the original series, but I've got a few Next Generation ones, a few Deep Space Nine ones, and just recently I bought this gigantic book lot of Star Trek books on eBay, which I have here. I think there's about 30 books in here, and so I thought it might be fun to open it on camera and go through it and sort of talk about the books. So yeah, and to add even more to my collection. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this, and let's get started. Got my knife here, and got this big box of books. Let's dig through this together. I forgot to mention, some of these books some of these books are duplicates, but most of them I think are ones that I didn't already have. But and I don't remember which ones are duplicates, but I have a list, so I remember which ones I've got. But I'm just gonna go through and just talk about them. Okay, so this isn't Star Trek, but the guy told me there was supposed to be a few extra books in here that he wasn't able to find to put into the box, so he gave me a few extras. One of which was this Sphere by Michael Crichton. I don't know much about this. Of course, I know Michael Crichton, but has something to do with underwater stuff. I don't know. But yeah, Michael Crichton's obviously a very popular author. So I don't know. We'll see. Oh, this is another one that another extra one that he put in. I've never heard of this. What is this? Cosmic Conflict. Good and evil wage war for planet Earth. Where is God when good people suffer? Oh my god. So wait. So this is some kind of non-fiction thing about God, and answering questions about God? Millions of inquiring readers searching for the answers to the most pressing problems of life have turned to this marvelous book through the years and found the comfort and inspiration of authoritative answers based on profound understanding of the Bible and of man's relationship to God during the 20 centuries of Christian dispensation. The seller didn't mention this. What the fuck is this? Well, this is obviously not something I would be interested in reading. But there you go, there's Cosmic Conflict. There's not even an author name on this. Who wrote this? Ellen G. White. Oh my god, wait, hang on. Copyright 1888, 1907, 1911 by Mrs. E. G. White. So is this that old? I'll have to do more research into this. This looks fucking bizarre. So that's definitely not Star Trek. Okay, now we're getting into the actual Star Trek books. Next I have Star Trek The Motion Picture by Gene Roddenberry. This was the novelization of the first movie, obviously. Written by Gene Roddenberry, which is unusual because I think this is the only novel he was directly involved in that he actually wrote. But the movie itself was okay. It was kind of slow and a bit turgid. But I don't know, maybe the book will be interesting. I've heard the book kind of goes into more detail and into certain like character relationships and things like that, so we'll see. Oh. Apparently I have another copy of the motion picture, so I've got 3 of those now, so I'll set those aside. Next we've got here Star Trek The Next Generation, Q-in-Law by Peter David. This is also a duplicate, I own this already, but this is one of the more popular Next Generation books, dealing with Q, and Luoxana Troi, and it just sounds really crazy, really fun. I mean, just everything you need to know is right there, you know. Q and Luoxana Troi, I mean, that's a pretty dynamic combination, so I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun, and I look forward to getting into that eventually. Next is Star Trek Next Generation number 19, Perchance to Dream. On a routine mission to survey Domarus 4, a Class M world with no intelligent life, a USS Enterprise shuttle crewed by Data, Troi, and Wesley Crusher is captured by a race called the Tenirans, who claim the world for themselves. As Captain Picard tries to negotiate with the captain of the Teniran ship, the shuttle suddenly disappears in a blaze of color and light. Picard demands to know what's happened to the shuttle and its crew, but the Tenarans deny any part in their disappearance. They spelled Tenirans differently on the back here. Suddenly, Captain Picard vanishes from the bridge and finds himself alone on the planet's surface with the Tenaran captain. As the two captains begin to work together, they realize that they are not alone on Domarus 4 as they confront an incredible alien force with the power to transform a world or to destroy it. Sounds like a pretty typical Star Trek plot, a little bit similar to Darmok, with two captains trapped on a planet. I don't know, could be interesting. Not super excited about Wesley Crusher. Why would you send Wesley Crusher down on an away team? But, oh well. Next we have number 13, for Next Generation, The Eyes of the Beholders by A.C. Crispin. After several Federation and Klingon ships disappear while traveling a newly opened trade route, the Enterprise is sent to investigate. Their quest leads Captain Picard and his crew to an eerie space graveyard full of ships of every size and description, all of them dead in space. At the center of the graveyard lies a huge, incredibly powerful artifact constructed by an ancient alien race, and as the crew struggles to solve the mystery of the artifact, they unwittingly trigger its awesome power, a power that threatens insanity and death to all aboard the Starship Enterprise. That sounds a lot of fun, and A.C. Crispin, I know, is a pretty well-respected writer. She wrote, for Star Wars as well, she wrote the Corellian trilogy, I believe, in the 90s. So yeah, she's been around the block when it comes to this kind of stuff. So yeah, hopefully that'll be entertaining. Next is TNG number 17, Boogeyman. Wesley Crusher on the cover there. Eric Baldwin is the Federation's premier exologist, a specialist in all manner of alien life forms, and one of Captain Picard's oldest, most trusted friends. But Baldwin's discoveries have made him enemies across the galaxy, and now he wants Picard to help protect him by erasing all traces of his existence. But Picard soon finds himself with little time to worry about Baldwin's problems, for the Enterprise has suddenly become a strange, dangerous place, a ship where assassins lurk around every corner, and even old trusted friends are not what they seem. Threats all masterminded by the strangest race of aliens Picard and his crew have yet encountered. That sounds mysterious and interesting, kind of dark for a TNG book. I don't know what Wesley's doing there on the cover, but we'll see. This is a very popular one. I don't know much about it, but I've seen this all over the place. Star Trek Vendetta. This is the giant novel by Peter David. I believe this was the first giant novel, next to Metamorphosis, I think. Yeah, don't know much about this, but it looks like it has to do with the Borg, so The Borg, half organic being and half machine, they are the most feared race in the known galaxy. In their relentless quest for technological perfection, they have destroyed entire star systems, enslaved countless peoples, and in a single brutal attack decimated Starfleet's mightiest vessels. Only a final desperate gambit by Captain Picard and the Enterprise crew stopped the Borg from conquering the entire Federation, and now they have returned. Ooh, sounds fun. Okay. And yeah, it's pretty long for a Star Trek novel, almost, 400 pages, so we'll see how that goes. Oh, I've got multiple copies of this, too. So I've got 2 copies of the novelization of The Wrath of Khan here. Obviously, I've seen the movie. The Wrath of Khan is one of the best Star Trek movies in the whole series. Who wrote the book? Vonda N. McIntyre, who was I've heard of her. She wrote a bunch of other Star Trek novels, and I think she wrote some Star Wars novels and a few other things. Yeah, Khan, one of Kirk's greatest villains, greatest adversaries. Great movie. Hopefully the book is just as good. Never read it, but we'll see. Another TNG book. This one's pretty beat up. Number 10, A Rock in a Hard Place by Peter David. Got Riker and Troy on the cover there. Under the best circumstances, terraforming is a tough, dangerous task that pits the hardiest of pioneers against an unforgiving environment. When the terraformers on the planet Paradise fall behind schedule, Commander Riker is given temporary leave from the Enterprise and sent to assist. Riker's replacement on the Enterprise is a volatile officer named Stone, whose behavior soon raises questions about his ability and his judgment. Meanwhile, Commander Riker has become enmeshed in a life-and-death struggle with Paradise's brutal landscape. However, he soon learns that not all of the planet's dangers are natural in origin, as he comes face-to-face with Paradise's greatest danger and most hideous secret. Don't know about that. We'll see how that turns out. I don't remember seeing this being included in the listing, but this is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan photo story. It's literally just pictures from the movie in black and white. Don't have any use for that, but that's kind of interesting. Kind of wish the pictures were in color, but whatever. On a similar note, I've got one of these, a Star Trek photo novel, number 5, Metamorphosis. Again, photo novels, it's screenshots from the episode with dialogue and captions. It's kind of like a comic book, but made with pictures from the show. Again, I don't have any use for these. If I want to watch the show, I'll just watch the show, but it's kind of interesting if you're into that kind of thing, and it's one of the older publications from Bantam. How old is this? 1978, so this is before Pocket Books had the rights to Star Trek, so that's kind of interesting. Okay, looks like the rest of these are just straight up Star Trek or Next Generation books, so let's just go through them. This is the Pandora Principle by Carolyn Clowes. Pretty cool artwork there. A Romulan bird of prey mysteriously drifts over the neutral zone and into Federation territory. Captain Kirk and the crew of the Enterprise investigate, only to find the ship dead in space. When Starfleet orders the derelict ship brought to Earth for examination, the Enterprise returns home with perhaps her greatest prize. But the bird of prey carries a dangerous cargo, a deadly force that is soon unleashed in the heart of the Federation. Suddenly, the only hope for the Federation's survival lies buried in the tortured memory of Commander Spock's protege, a cadet named Savik. Together, Spock and Savik must return to the nightmare world of Savik's birth, a planet called Helgard, to discover the secret behind the Romulans' most deadly threat of all. That sounds pretty interesting. So it's a book about Savik, who featured in Star Trek II. That's pretty cool, because she wasn't really... she appeared in some of the other sequels, but she didn't really get expanded on much. So I'll be interested to read that, to learn more about Savik and her nightmare homeworld, apparently. That sounds interesting. We'll see what that turns out, how that turns out. Next we have TNG number 16, Contamination by John Vornault. The Enterprise crew is stunned when famed scientist Lynn Costa is murdered in one of the ship's science labs. She and her husband Emil were known as science's greatest ongoing collaboration, and together they had received the Federation's highest honors for their achievements in scientific research. Determined to see the culprit brought to justice, Captain Picard assigns Lieutenant Worf and Counselor Deanna Troi to the case. Their routine investigation of the ship's science lab soon reveals a dangerous web of deceit, betrayal, and madness. Now, Worf and Troi find themselves struggling against a ruthless assassin set on revenge, for whom murder is only the beginning. Sounds pretty fun, sort of a murder mystery with Troi and Worf. Some assassins going on. I don't know, we'll see how that turns out. Sounds interesting. Next we have TNG number 29, Sins of Commission by Susan Wright. While on a mission to save the planet Lessenar from an environmental collapse, the crew of the USS Enterprise becomes entangled in a web of treachery and murder. When a member of a strange, emotion-casting race is killed on board the ship, all evidence points to Lieutenant Worf and one of his oldest friends. Soon the crew of the Starship Enterprise is crippled by an emotional onslaught as the surviving aliens respond in anger and pain to the death of their comrade. Worf must overcome this alien influence and find the true killer, with the destruction of the Starship Enterprise, the survival of Lessenar, and his Klingon honor hanging in the balance. Interesting. So another murder mystery with Worf there. I guess that makes sense, being that he's the security officer. He'd probably take point on any kind of murder investigations, but yeah, that sounds pretty fun. I like the idea of an alien force, like, sending their emotions out to people and fucking with the crew. Sounds entertaining. We'll see how that turns out. Another novelization here. This is the novelization of Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country by J.M. Dillard. Star Trek VI is actually one of my favorite Star Trek films. Very underrated in my opinion. It's dark, it's moody, has a great score, very political. It's just really a really great film. So I'll be really interested to see how the book plays out. If you don't know, the movie's about basically the wall explodes in Klingon space, and the Klingons basically have about 50 years of life left in them, so they decide to broker a peace treaty with the Federation. And the Klingon ambassador is murdered, and so they have to figure out who murdered him and try to kind of clear their names. It's a really, really good movie. I hope the book is just as good, so we'll see. This is number 54 of the original series, A Flag Full of Stars. This is by Brad Ferguson. This is the second book in the Lost Years saga. Unfortunately, I don't have The Lost Years, the first one, so I will have to buy that at some point. All I know about The Lost Years is that it's about the lost years in between the ending of the original series and the beginning of the movie. It's basically all the time period between that. So yeah, this is about James Kirk being married and starting a new life, and then he meets a scientist, a Klingon scientist named Gaddath. So I don't know, could be interesting. I'll have to read the first book to see before I get into that, but I know this one's a duplicate because I know I've seen this on my shelf. This is Star Trek number 56, Legacy by Michael Jan Friedman. A routine survey of the planet Alpha Octavius IV turns disastrous as Spock is attacked and poisoned by a huge creature, and Kirk's landing party is trapped underground by a violent earthquake. As Spock fights for his life in sickbay, Scotty organizes a search for Kirk and his men. However, rescue efforts must cease when the USS Enterprise is called away to the Beta Cabrini system, where a mining colony is under heavy attack. At Beta Cabrini, the Enterprise faces off against a marauder named Dreen, a man that Spock had watched his former captain, Christopher Pike, defeat years before. Fighting the effects of the poison, Spock struggles to his feet and takes command of the ship. Soon, Spock and Dreen are locked into a deadly game of cat and mouse, a game driven by mad revenge that can have only one survivor. That sounds really fun, so kind of going into the history of Captain Pike a little bit, the history of Spock and Captain Pike, fighting this old adversary. Sounds entertaining. I look forward to that. Another movie tie-in here, Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home by Vonda N. McIntyre. Again, one of the best Star Trek movies, one of the funniest, definitely. This is the one where the crew has to go back in time to 1980s, I think it's San Francisco. Anyway, they have to go back in time to 20th century Earth to rescue some humpback whales because they have their song has a secret that will basically solve a bunch of problems that are going on in the Federation time. It's a really funny movie, just very like almost like a self-parody, but it's really, really funny, really good. Lots of great moments. So yeah, we'll see how I don't know how the book is going to compare, but we'll see. Now we have Next Generation number 15, Fortune's Light by Michael Jan Friedman. Dante Maxima 7, a world known to its inhabitants as Imprima, a world where Madragi, huge social/economic entities wealthy beyond compare, control the fate of millions. Years ago, William Riker was part of the Starfleet delegation that opened Imprima to the Federation. Now the disappearance of an old friend, Teller Conlon, who also served on that team, draws Riker and the Enterprise across the galaxy back to Imprima, because the jewel known as Fortune's Light, one of Madraga Cryathis' most priceless possessions, has been stolen, and Teller Conlon stands accused of its theft. Now Riker must discover the truth behind the disappearance of both his friend and Fortune's Light, no easy task in a world where treachery and intrigue are commonplace, and where even an old friend's embrace may conceal the deadly bite of a dagger's blade. Ooh, that sounds fun. It's almost like Riker getting trapped in a like Menzo Berenzan from D&D or something, you know, very drow-ish society, lots of backstabbing and intrigue. That sounds fun. Look forward to that. Oh, here you go. This was the book I mentioned earlier. Star Trek The Next Generation, Metamorphosis. This is the first giant novel by Gene Laura. Pretty long for a Star Trek book, 371 pages. Don't know much about this. I've seen this is one of the more popular ones. I've seen it around a lot of places. Unexplained gravitational disturbances summon the Enterprise to the planet Elysia, and the android Lieutenant Commander Data to a date with destiny, for on this alien world he will be drawn into an impossible quest, leading him to consequences both heartwarming and disastrous as he finally dares to pursue his fondest desire, to become human. Okay, so it's very Data-focused, so that should be interesting. And because it's fairly long for a Star Trek book, maybe that means it'll be more in-depth, go into some interesting character stuff. I look forward to that. Star Trek, Metamorphosis. Another original series book. This is... There's no number on this one. That's interesting. There's no number on this one, but it is one of the earlier ones. This is Corona by Greg Bear. Greg Bear is obviously a very famous sci-fi writer. Wrote stuff like Eon, Darwin's Blood, I think it's called, or Darwin's Radio. I've heard a lot about him. Never read any of his stuff. Didn't know he wrote a Star Trek book. But an awesome sentient force of protostars, Corona, has taken control of a stranded team of Vulcan scientists. The Enterprise has come on a rescue mission with a female reporter and a new computer that can override Kirk's command. Suddenly, the rescuers must save themselves and the entire universe before Corona unleashes a big bang. Sounds pretty fun, pretty classic Star Trek plot, you know, involving sort of a godlike alien species. Next Generation number 14, Exiles by Howard Weinstein. What's this one about? For 3 centuries, the people of Alaj and the people of Etolos have been bitter enemies. However, when crippling disasters strike both worlds, each planet becomes the other's only hope for survival. With time running out, Captain Picard and his crew are called to negotiate a peaceful settlement and begin rescue efforts. But some factions would rather see both planets perish and will stop at nothing to prevent peace. Soon, the Enterprise crew is caught up in a web of intrigue and terrorism that culminates with an act of ultimate revenge against both peoples. Revenge that will mean the destruction of 2 worlds and the Enterprise. We'll see. Sounds a little bit generic to me. Although this is interesting, there's actually a blurb on the back here from Gene Roddenberry that says, Howard is to be congratulated on a highly entertaining and very socially relevant story. I don't think Roddenberry blurbed much of the novels. I don't think he blurbed any of them except for this one. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. We'll see. Now we have Next Generation number 21, Chains of Command by Bill McKay and Eloise Flood. While exploring a group of devastated Class M planets in a remote sector of space, the crew of the USS Enterprise is shocked to discover a group of human slaves on a forbidding glacial world. When the slaves revolt against their human overseers, Captain Picard and his crew sympathize with the slaves' plight but cannot interfere in the conflict. After the revolt is a success, Captain Picard learns that both the slaves and the overseers were controlled by a mysterious bird-like race called the Tseetsk, who are coming to reclaim their property. With time running out, the rebels kidnap Captain Picard and Counselor Troy, drawing the USS Enterprise into the middle of their deadly plan of vengeance. Sounds cool, so it involves like slaves and the Prime Directive and sort of revolution and that kind of thing. Could be interesting, we'll see. We have an episode novelization, Star Trek The Next Generation, Descent by Diane Carey. based on Descent Part 1 and 2. The Borg are back and nastier than ever, no longer mindless inhuman drones, but cyborg soldiers on a mission to assimilate all intelligent life. Their new goal is the complete destruction of the Federation, and in the midst of facing the Borg again, Captain Picard learns that he may be the cause of the change. Commander Data is changing as well. For the first time in his life, Data feels a genuine emotion, and that emotion is a deadly, destructive rage. When it is revealed that the Borg are commanded by an old enemy out of Data's past, Data must choose between his allegiance to the Federation and the one thing he wants above all else. I don't remember if I've seen this episode. It sounds familiar, but it's got the Borg in it, it's got Data, it's got Picard. It should be great, right? We'll see. See, now we have number 24, the Next Generation number 24, Nightshade by Laurel K. Hamilton, who is obviously more well-known these days for her Anita Blake series, which I've read a few of, and they're pretty entertaining and fun. Never expected her to write a Star Trek novel, but after 200 years of civil war, the planet Oriana is dying. Most of the surface vegetation is gone, the air is nearly unbreathable, and the people themselves are dying. Now the two warring factions have finally sat down to talk peace, and Captain Picard and the USS Enterprise are sent to help them negotiate a settlement. Picard, Lieutenant Worf, and Counselor Troy beam down to Oriana just as the Starship Enterprise is called away on another urgent mission. Alone on the planet, the USS Enterprise team learns that there are people that would rather finish the devastating conflict than talk peace. Suddenly, Picard is accused of murder and the delicate negotiations have fallen into the hands of Lieutenant Worf. Now, Worf and Troy must unravel the truth and prevent planet-wide disaster before time runs out for the people of Oriana and the crew of the Starship Enterprise. So it sounds pretty similar to that other one, Exiles, but I like the idea of Worf having to be a diplomat. That sounds entertaining. And another team-up between Worf and Troy, so that could be fun. We'll see. Now we have the last Next Generation book in this box, which is number 28, Here There Be Dragons, by John Peel. When Captain Jean-Luc Picard and the crew of the USS Enterprise receive news of a human planet hidden in the center of an immense stellar cloud, they immediately investigate. Penetrating the cloud, the starship crew is shocked to discover a world of knights and serfs lifted right out of Earth's Middle Ages. Ruthlessly exploiting the planet is a ring of interstellar trophy hunters preying on the immense native dragon lizards 20 feet tall and armored like tanks. Beaming down, an away team soon becomes embroiled in a web of intrigue and murder. Taken prisoner, Picard, Riker, Data, and Ro must somehow escape and stop the hunters or face destruction from the hunters' ancient weapon, based on an advanced technology capable of utterly annihilating the Starship Enterprise. That sounds really fun. So it's like the Star Trek crew getting beamed down to like a medieval fantasy kind of world with like dragons and shit. That sounds cool. I want to read that. We have another episode adaptation here. This one's pretty beat up as well, but this is Deep Space Nine, The Search, by Diane Carey. I'm still working my way through Deep Space Nine, but I have gotten to this episode. This was the premiere of Season 3, where they discover more about the Dominion. The Dominion, the mysterious rulers of the worlds on the other side of the wormhole. The Dominion, a ruthless planet-conquering race unknown even to those they rule. The Dominion, the most dangerous foe the Federation may ever face. So yeah, this was a really cool episode involving the team learning more about the Dominion and some of the races that they control, like the Jem'Hadar, and discovering who the actual leaders of the Dominion are. It was a really good episode. Hopefully this novelization will do a good job of bringing that across. We'll see. The last movie novelization in this box. This is Star Trek V, The Final Frontier by J.M. Dillard. This is widely considered to be one of the worst Star Trek movies, the only one that Shatner directed. This is the one where Captain Kirk fights God, and that's really all that needs to be said about that. The movie sucks, but maybe the book will be entertaining. We'll see. Don't know. Number 37 in the original series, Star Trek Bloodthirst by J.M. Dillard. A Class 1 medical emergency summons the Enterprise to the Federation outpost Tanis. There, a grisly surprise awaits them. 2 of the lab's 3 researchers are dead, their bodies almost entirely drained of blood. There are no clues, no records of their research, no remnants of their work. There is only the outpost's sole survivor, Dr. Jeffrey Adams, a man with a secret that will rock the very foundations of Starfleet, and a terrible, all-consuming hunger that will bring death to the crew of the Starship Enterprise. So is this like a vampire book with a vampire trapped on the Enterprise? That sounds awesome. I'll have to check that out. And lastly, we have interesting. So another episode adaptation. Star Trek The Next Generation Unification by Jerry Taylor. So this is based on a 2-part episode that brings together Spock and the crew of TNG. Based on the epic 2-part television episode, here now is the story Star Trek fans have awaited for 5 long years. The story that brings together Spock with the crew of The Next Generation. It doesn't say much about the actual plot of the book, but yeah, I mean, it's always fun when old crews meet new crews and crossovers and stuff, so we'll see how that goes. So yeah. And then lastly, this was just something that the seller threw in as an apology for missing out on some of those other books. It's a Star Trek Next Generation keepsake. It's a Klingon Bird of Prey Christmas ornament. So that's pretty awesome. Maybe I'll hang that from my Christmas tree this year. So that was a nice little gift from him. And with that, that is the entire box of Star Trek books that I bought on eBay. Have you guys read any of these books? Which ones would you recommend? Do you have any favorite Star Trek books that weren't in this collection? Let me know. I'm diving deep into this into all the tie-in fiction, so I'm very eager to jump into more of these. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Or should I say, live long and prosper. Bye.